Hello and welcome to this episode of Read Play Game, where we look at tabletop role-playing games from every side of the table. We have just finished playing Executive Decision, and this is our game discussion episode. Any thoughts anyone wants to jump in with?
Immediate. Also wanted to say, just because it's your first time on the podcast, fantastic job, Sam.
Thank you.
Jumped right in.
We were very excited to have you on, especially for this game, because we know you love to argue.
What?
It's very fun.
How did you figure that out? It's not like you've ever seen me do that before.
Well,
yeah,
fill us
delightful.
in. I like to laugh. Were you in speech and debate or something?
No,
Yeah.
just... Oh, you were? I don't know.
I was actually, I was on speech and debate. Yeah,
Look at that.
shocker.
Duncan Douglas.
I was a theater kid and a speech and debate kid, although I only did debate for 2 years, and then I did speech for
It
the
is
last 2
amazing
years.
that you are as cool a person you are with those two
Ah!
under your belt.
Dude,
The odds stacked
I started off
against
high school. I was in marching band, speech and debate, and theater.
Incredible.
Oh my
The trifecta.
gosh.
And
Three
I won
horsemen.
prom king. So my school.
Four
You won
horsemen of the... Oh
prom
my
king?
god.
Yeah.
Whoa!
We have very similar arcs, Sam.
Did you win prom king?
I didn't go to prom.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
Well, did
Those
you
are two
win?
very
people.
different
I feel like
arcs.
you can still win.
Right.
Yeah, how many people on this
I got
call won
ousted
prom
from
king?
student government.
Oh,
Their face is killing me. Why no one give me?
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
I was because I made someone mad, and then they tried to get me kicked out of the yearbook, and then they got me kicked out of student government because I told them. I was like, "Oh, the application for student body president is today," but it was actually the day after, and they got really mad at me.
Wait, did you lie on purpose, or were you wrong?
No, it was an accident. Also, it's like, even if I had said it was that day, like, if she had turned it in that day, it's not like it would have been late.
I don't know. It sounded like a Ms. Doe situation to me.
someone was leaking emails.
Misinformation.
Now, listeners, that was a bit where we would yell misinput. So quite a masterful gambit on your part.
Thank you. We're cutting all of that out.
No.
Probably.
No. How dare you?
In regards to the, game we just finished,
Right.
I usually don't like big argument type games, but this game is making me rethink that because I think the political setting and the sort of wacky tone of it all that we took with it made it incredibly enjoyable to try and pick apart people's arguments, see where I could get along for the ride with some people despite having opposing viewpoints. Like, I remember incredible character, Buster Ballot, simp for the president,
Damn
keeps the
straight.
voters first. We had opposing views on, international politics. So anytime, I would have a discussion with Buster about, spinning something, I would deliberately try and not mention international politics. And then in other regards, I'd be really vocal about my opinions. So like having to vote or having to collaborate with people who also have similar viewpoints, but also different viewpoints means that you have to like compromise in certain ways and like do some political doublespeak. That is honestly very engaging mentally.
I was worried at first that there might be like some like kind of like silence and downtime that would be hard to avoid. Like I don't know, just because of how like sometimes like argument based games can go. It seems like a lot of times there's a lot of those games where you just like reach conclusions quickly. But I think the fact of like creating a character that you're arguing as adds a whole nother element to it. Where
So
like,
it's not like you.
yeah, I think that it adds like a layer of like making it like the discussion lasts longer because you're less likely to end up like kind of agreeing with like your friends, which is can be an issue with argument games where you're just arguing as yourself.
Yeah, because I was hearing arguments and I was like, there are some points being made here, but I was like, that was not what Secretary
That's not
Mitty
what I'm
thinks.
about.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'd be very interested, actually, like, I mean, it is a very America, like, United States government centric game. I'd be very interested to see how it could be kind of modded, adapted to something else. Like, I mean, we were talking about like the wackiness that we kind of brought to it. Like, I think it could be a really interesting setup / like rule set to bring to something like, you know, make it like sci-fi or like fantasy. Like it's a castle, like kingdom in a fantasy world, and like you're like the round table for like Arthur or like, you know, a galactic corporation type thing. I think that could be really
I would
fun.
love for it to be in the big Star Wars Senate room.
Yeah.
All the little
Yes.
floating platforms.
Yes, exactly.
That's so fun.
That'd be delicious.
Emergency powers.
I have heard a kind of version of this in a actual play podcast. Friends at the Table, they did a version of this game, I believe, but it was set in their like sci-fi setting. So like all these different factions they established in different games, like kind of coming together and to talk about them. Very, very interesting. This game definitely has potential to be hacked. So
Yeah, totally. I found out about this game from a
Just like
Dungeons
my
and
email.
Daddies episode where they played it.
They play it on the
Yeah, they did. There's a Dungeons and Daddies episode where they played it, and they made up their own scenario where Pokemon were real, and they're
That's
having to
so
decide what to do with the
fun.
Pokemon.
that's awesome. The Secretary of Agriculture is saying we got.
Yeah, no, I think
we gotta
like
farm
the
'em.
only thing with the rule, I mean, there's a limited amount of like scenarios, crises in the rule book, and so I think that idea of like branching it out and making it whatever you want with that sounds super fun. Like you were saying with the Pokemon or any other thing. Because I really enjoy the rule system, and the idea of like making these characters for the argument is really fun.
Oh yeah, you had some good arguments too. Like I feel bad for shouting over them because they were very good. Like I felt the air leave the room when you made the point of like, you know, the electoral votes. Like
Yeah, we were like, ooh.
like
So
New
true.
York and
GAF about
California-
Montana.
Yeah, I mean, I was
New York and California do have more.
Montana.
yeah, no,
is
that's
the
why. I mean,
most
I did because I was
important.
like, I was looking it up because I was like, Montana doesn't have that many electoral votes, and I looked it up and I was like, yeah,
But you can imagine a world where, again, like a politician doesn't make Montana about the electoral votes. It makes Montana a narrative that
Yeah.
represents the American people. So
for sure. Because Montana has Yellowstone and like Glacier National Park and all of these.
and so many
Core
resources
American-
to be.
Yeah,
And now
like,
a
yeah.
gorgeous factory, the
Yay!
Cavendish Corporation.
Hey.
Look, the factory's not over
Yeah.
in Glacier; it's in the ugly part.
That's
Yeah.
true.
No one cares about the ugly part.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so sad.
I mean, it's kind of like the idea of, you know, like Joseph Tree National Park in California is the most
You mean
polluted
Joshua Tree?
national park in the Joshua Tree. Did I say Joseph Tree? Whoops.
Yeah,
You were thinking
Joshua
Senator
Tree's the most
Joseph
polluted.
Tree.
It's
Please,
the most
Joseph Tree
polluted.
was my
It's the most
father.
polluted national park because like all of the smog from LA just kind of goes down there and it's like killing all the Joshua trees.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sad.
Damn.
I thought it was really fun. Like, I'm curious how people picked their pros and cons of whether it just felt like natural. I picked that I was opposed. Was it opposed or anti or what was it?
I think opposed versus
I opposed voter satisfaction
Versus
because
favor.
I wanted the president to fall out of favor so that I could be elected next term. And that was kind of how I thought of it. I also thought it would be fun to have at least one person who was against the president.
Yeah, I think that was
Yeah.
a smart choice.
That'd be interesting.
I
It
think,
was.
yeah, I think that
interesting.
made the dynamic, very, very interesting. I just kind of like picked off like what I felt like my character would want. Like, you know, I felt like he cared about image.
He
like,
knew the president for 15
for 15
years.
years. So he just wants the president to have a legacy that is like,
Mhm.
you know, looks good. Like he doesn't actually really care about like, I don't think my character didn't have any ideologies beyond like look good and make money. Like,
Same here. That's how I live my life.
I do wish I'd picked a con. I wish I'd picked something that I didn't want to happen. I forgot
It's very
about that.
fun to oppose things, I
Yeah.
will say, because boxing with the conservationists was always a joy. I thought about it as just like, again, military first, like upping taxes means more money for military. Healthcare, you know, for veterans. International prestige, who needs that? We're gonna bomb them and oppose conservation. You know. Yeah, it sucked to play somebody who favors the military, but you know,
You
won.
won.
You
Characters.
seem to enjoy it.
Yay,
You
You won.
won.
I did win.
Wow, that's
That's
so
what
sad.
matters.
You crushed all opposition, all opponents.
You industrialized that
You
military
killed them.
complex.
You industrialized that. That's funny.
Thank you.
Oh, lol.
I chose mine because I was not offered the choice which I so graciously requested.
It was because you
Treasury
were
or
singing
state.
it. It was because you were
I
singing it. I
chose
wasn't gonna give it to
both the Treasury and State
Treasury
agendas.
Treasury
So that's why I had balanced budget and international prestige as pro, and then I took anti-development because I felt like that kind of went hand in hand with pro-conservation.
you. Sure.
Did you ever bring up the budget?
No, I didn't bring up the budget. The budget wasn't relevant. I mean, even in the final thing, it went nil. You know,
That is an interesting part of this game. Some certain
Some
agendas
things you just
are
don't care about.
Yeah, these agendas, like, we never brought up centrism explicitly.
I mean, technically,
That's
like,
also-
centrism is about, like,
That my point is that, like, it's easier to know when somebody's anti-conservation or pro-conservation. It's less explicit when you're talking about balanced budget, centrism, like
yeah,
revenue health, like those things.
Like,
are
for
harder to
me,
see.
the reason I was anti-centrism was because metagaming, I was like, oh, we're not going to come to an agreement where it's going to be either one way or the other. So I was like being anti-centrism because I was reading, it's like, oh, if there's like not a clear, like if there's not, like if it's hard one side or hard the other. So I was like, oh, that'll be an easy point. So that's why I did that.
I feel like you can make a
be
character that's
honest.
pro-centrism, and it's kind of like you know, like Futurama, those like the people from the neutral planet. You make a pro-centrist
Yeah.
character that's just one of those like
Yeah.
I feel neutral about this.
we never learned what happened to Jane Doe.
I was
Yeah.
just thinking that.
Oh, what was the other option?
probably
Oh yeah, what
Look
happens if
into
we?
it?
Yeah, let's see if we
Oh,
go
yeah.
Spanner. We go rebuke the men.
Okay, so if we had rebuked it, better to stand by my word, better for the environment, better for retaining face globally, better overall politically. In parentheses, worse for business though. It would have been up for conservation, voter satisfaction, and international prestige, nil military centrism balanced budget, and down development health tax revenue.
Can't have that.
If we
Can't have
spun the narrative, Ms. Doe is obviously just a political operative for the opposition. Presidents have always been approached by old friends and acquaintances for special favors. To blow this single example, which was answered only out of kindness and friendship, into a political issue is truly a repugnant of political skullduggery. And this is actually pretty interesting. Two things go down, conservation and international prestige. Everything else is nil.
Wow.
Oh, so that would have.
That's
Wow, I didn't think the
amazing.
international prestige would go down for that. I thought that.
I think
I
that
just-
it's just like you even thought about going against the
Yeah.
treaty.
Wow, I was honestly on the. I should have been arguing apparently
On the
to
wrong end of the pitchfork.
rebuke it. I didn't think the American people would like it.
Yeah, that's
Wow,
crazy.
I feel like I really.
So I
got
wonder
the
who
character
would've-
as a political consultant there.
Yeah.
So I think
say nothing.
Anish probably would have won that one because it was international and what is down?
Conservation
Conservation,
and international.
conservation and international. I would have gotten 2 points.
Oh,
I would've lost
What
2
would have
points.
what would have happened if you resigned?
Oh,
yeah.
good question.
Oh.
I low-key was like, hold it together, don't say resign. You have to keep your cards close to your chest.
I've tarnished not just my own image, but that of my political party and the office of the President of the United States. By stepping down, I sacrifice myself for the good of all three. 4 things go up: conservation, voter satisfaction, centrism, international prestige. Everything else is nil. Also, the vice president is now the president for the next crisis.
Wow.
That's what I was like, I can't. I was like, if anyone else says it, I'll go with it. But no one.
One
else
thing
is gonna say it.
One thing I find interesting and I wonder is like, is every crisis like one of the solutions resign?
That would be hilarious.
That'd be so funny.
That I think is so funny. I
always
mean, like
resign.
I wouldn't.
If
Yeah, you can always
Pokemon
resign.
are
That's,
real,
like, always-
I'm resigning.
I don't think so because this is specifically like kind of a
a
scandal.
personal issue.
Like it's
yeah.
kind of like you had a. It's like I mean it's like emails leaking. You know, like
Oh,
Hillary
it's
Clinton.
like, you know, if we got like if a war was started resigning is not
Yeah,
the solution.
if a war starts, I have to leave.
Oh,
I'm
there's
outta
a
here.
war. Peace.
I have a boundary about
Literally.
this. I'm protecting my peace.
Yeah, you have to have lines
Yeah.
and veils as the president.
I think something that's
Yeah.
interesting from reading what would have happened with those other options is hearing those other options made me realize, okay, like I feel like there's some roles where you're going to play the role, and like maybe the better you play the role, the more likely you are to lose. Like in the sense of like, I feel like a chief of staff, why would a chief of staff ever argue to be like, yeah, like let's side with like, you know, the tree huggers and say no to like business and like, or for the other, why would it, like the thing that got me was resign up to voter satisfaction, which would have helped me points wise, but like why would a chief of staff ever tell
But
the
yeah,
president to
you're
resign?
out of a job.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like what's so funny is I felt like in the moment, like my character, the best option was to argue for spin, and I actually would have lost worse if I had done
Yeah,
that.
that's crazy.
Damn.
I had a great time being the president. Thank you all for
You were a
letting me
great
have
Yeah, you were
President.
fantastic.
You had a
I
pretty
I
good.
serve at the pleasure of my
term.
president.
Yeah.
Damn it, we've
president.
known each other since our Yale days.
Right. Actually, so you knew the CEO as well.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to highlight just this part of the presidential manual that I liked, which is you're the president in the game, but you're also the host of the game. It's your responsibility to make sure a good time is had by all. If that means playing along with the one dissenter so she won't feel left out, do it. If it means arguing against all of them so that they'll have something to do it. For you, good sportsmanship is more important than finding out what would have happened if you picked the outcome you wanted.
I do
That's
genuinely
fun.
think whenever we were getting loud, you did an incredible job of like
Yeah.
separating viewpoints,
Yeah.
making sure like interesting perspectives were being heard. I genuinely think that the order in which you picked everybody to go on the final round
Yeah.
did affect like
Jess,
things
you
a lot.
almost had me. You almost
Yeah.
had me. Your last words were very convincing.
They were convinced.
They
Yeah.
were convincing to me.
Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah, if
mostly
only the time hadn't gotten cut off.
Well, I think it was mostly Sam being spin with the angle of supporting the friend. You know, like
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, I had more sort of about how you can still be supportive of the friend, and also how you could still spin.
Yeah.
You could still spin it with, like you don't have. You could still mention her and still mention the FBI investigation while also rebuking the. But yeah, I'll get over it.
I think you did a really good job with like not only, you know, the order of like calling people out, but I think it was fun. Like I like Sam was saying, like I think I was also kind of worried, like, oh, there'd be some moments of like silence or like figuring stuff out. But I think everyone genuinely did a really good job kind of living in their characters. And I think you, Tori, did a great job of giving a trajectory, because it was like we each had our own individual ideas of like where we wanted you to go. But the way in which I don't think, like, obviously you made a decision at the end which you wanted to go for, but I think you did a really good job kind of lifting each perspective and voice up throughout.
And staying undecided until the end.
Yeah.
Mr. President, a question.
Yes.
As we were, you know, yelling and truly chaos was descending, what was it like trying to process all of that at once?
So it's interesting that you said I remained undecided, Mikey, because I I wanted to support the memo, like probably from the first round. Because,
Oh,
Well, fuck.
because, and I'll tell you why, because Emma was able to put these very specific images in my head, which I think helped. Like
Ooh.
the American public, like someone who stands by their friend. Like
Dark.
that, I can picture.
Oh,
the
so
average
good.
voter, they don't like sneaks versus the more conservative in terms of conservation efforts. The more conservation, they were more like broad scale, like we have to protect the whole earth. And it was harder for me to picture an average like person. And then Anish, you brought up like the healthcare. So now I'm thinking of the campaigns, like, oh, we get like, you know, wow, this saved my life. Like, so it just became a lot easier for me to picture what that actually looked like in practice. Whereas
Interesting real world parallel. It's hard to conceive of the
Yeah.
world melting versus, you know.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of why I tried to reference like East Palestine and you know, North Carolina, with like how, you know, the train wreck that caused the leak of velvet in East Palestine like
I actually
is
last
this in,
year.
are you talking, is this in
is that a
America?
real
What are you
thing?
talking
Ohio.
about?
Yeah, it's East Palestine.
Yeah, it's in Ohio, East Palestine, Ohio. There was a
really?
train crash that caused a leak of velvet that poisoned like towns for miles around, and like hundreds of people had to leave. And then in North Carolina, Duke Coal Power like leaked a ton of coal ash into the river and poisoned thousands of people. It was a huge scandal.
But they're still in business.
If you strongly
because it's the only option.
If you strongly disagree with the outcome that we came to in this episode, you should read The Injustice of Place. Incredible book. And let me pull up. I have one more book recommendation for people.
And let us know in the comments. Get in the comments. Tell us if you
read
disagree.
The Injustice of Place. It's about American cities and towns that have been like gutted and left for environmental ruin, as well as all other types of ruin. And where is this? Okay, never mind. I can't find it. There's a medical book that I read that was really good that was about the environmental repercussions. Under the Skin, The Hidden Toll of Racism on American Lives and the Health of Our Nation. Very good book, very well researched. Looks at environmental racism.
That was the toughest thing about the beginning, because y'all made a good argument from the beginning. Good argument in terms of the like electoral politics, where I was like, this like, and made me feel really honestly sad about the country, because I was like, this is what works in like the election cycle. Like this is what the priorities are. Because I was sitting here like, we have to talk about the environment. And I was like, I'm not going to get anywhere if I'm just talking about like the fucking tree hugger stuff. So that's why I had to be it's part of your character if you go back on your word to the American people. Yeah. Which is very interesting, just way to, it's an interesting mental exercise to have to put yourself in those shoes. It's fucked up.
It's also it's like fascinating to look at like other countries where politicians did stand up for things that are for the people, and they got voted out for it. Like in Australia, like several politicians like in Australia were very in support of like gun regulation and stuff, and it helped, cut down, shootings and all of that stuff. But a lot of those people didn't get reelected because but they were standing for their principles rather than get elected. And it's also like the fact that a lot of positions in America, like you get elected so often that like you have no time to actually campaign for anything. You have to constantly be working towards re-election.
I think something that's very interesting about kind of like the stance this game seems to take, though, is it kind of takes the opposite stance to that. Like we all immediately assumed like, okay, the people will care about, like the voting populace will care about jobs, and they'll care about, like not being a snake, all that sort of stuff, like loyalty to your friends, which is, I think, so interesting, because then the game actually punished that for voter satisfaction. Voter satisfaction was down for choosing that option. And so I think it's interesting where it puts you in the mindset of almost like a disconnected, political official, where you're like arguing. Like I felt like wow, I feel like this is so accurate of like a chief of staff who's like so actually out of touch with what the people really think and want. But like they're so sure that that's what they want, and then ends up like not at all.
I will say I was lying through my teeth in saying that the voters would want that. Yeah. I did not think that the voters would want someone who stands by their Yale friend instead of the international community. Yeah. But I was like, you'll look like a jerk.
And it's very strange because in parts of the game, if I was a political advisor, actually with the president's interests in mind, I would be swinging towards the Buster ballot solution, which is, legitimately find out more information. And I felt myself doing that at certain points. But when you remember that this is an RPG where you can win, you have points,
have agendas,
and you have a chance to get points. You at some point, it's literally sometimes fuck the president. Listen to me and do what I say.
Your arguments were making the most sense politically, Sam.
Yeah.
Well, but then that's the other thing, though, is we say that, but then the game also kind of punished that too. It was inaction just kind of means that nothing happens.
Nobody likes that.
Yeah, it's just kind of no one really cares. So I thought that was interesting too.
Which is very interesting statement.
I would also like to say my personal if I were actually a political advisor, I'd be like, hey, stand in international agreement. Don't let's think about climate change.
Yeah. this is a very good example of mechanic being tied very closely to theme and very effective. The fact that it's a competition really exposing that kind of is how it works, in that all these people are competing for their own agenda and somebody does win with each decision.
Yeah.
I also really like that you don't know what the results of the agenda you're fighting for will be.
Yeah.
I think that forces you to really just be in the role play and actually just be like, this is what I think is best. Even depending on whether or not it will actually get you what you think it will.
And I think for some roles it's more clear than others, because I think it was like for me, I was like, obviously this choice is going to be bad for conservation. Obviously it's going to be good for economic development. So I already know this is going to go against my agendas. So like doubling down there, but then there were more vague positions with the rest of you.
I think the reason it was so easy to support it is because if it had been like, okay, we need to like mine this land and then leave. The fact it was like a factory, which hypothetically, and the fact it included healthcare. I think for me, that's kind of what tipped it's like, and I don't know. Yeah, it was cool. And I liked being able to listen to everyone's points, and the fact that like we get new information at different times was a lot of fun. Yes. And it like reignites.
Oh yeah.
You did such a fun job with that too. Of like, wait a second.
I'm getting an urgent memo.
God.
I was on the edge of my seat.
Breaking news.
It's a great way to
I have to go give a press conference right now.
Yeah.
That was fun.
25 minutes.
We were nonstop yapping for an hour because I think we just like yelling. It was very fun to yell, but also like the structure of the game really keeps everybody on their toes. Like the complications really affect the win conditions for each individual character. And I thought that was super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything people would have changed?
Yes. I have no idea how the assertion mechanic works.
Yeah, the assertion mechanic got totally lost. I think
I don't think it was discussed before. Like it's only discussed in the winning, like the points. Like I don't think there was any discussion of the assertion mechanic before that.
I think that in a more like, I think that we're also in it for the love of role play. I feel like groups that are in it more for, like, I don't know. Even with the whole assertion thing in mind, I don't know how often I would remember to be like, I'm going to make an assertion here. I'm staking my claim on it. I think I'm just going to live in it. Yeah. Versus I feel like I do think that more expansion on how that works would be helpful for it being a mechanic. But to me, that didn't do anything.
I think if you focus more on the assertion mechanic, then it actually ends up being more of like a murder mystery situation. Like it adds in that element, so it like totally it switches the dynamic of the game. I definitely think the assertion gets lost if you're focusing on role play as opposed to like
figuring out.
Yeah, or like getting points more.
Assertion. I thought this was executive decision, not exquisite biome.
Whoa, nice.
I think I would prefer. I liked this scenario a lot. I thought it was very fun. I think in general I would prefer playing hacks of it. Like I think the setup is really interesting. I think different worlds.
Yeah, like the Pokemon idea you were talking about, Sam, sounds really fun. Really, or like yeah.
And what's interesting about that though is that you kind of would have to have, in addition, that like what this provide a writer in addition to like, because the president is somewhat a GM in a loose sense, but like the president can't write the scenario because they should not know the developments. They shouldn't know what things are going to lead to because they want to make a real decision. But it's what I really think that this is an interesting thing to compare to other games we've played, like Exquisite Biome and The Ground Itself and stuff like that, because this feels like the exact opposite of a world building game. This feels like this is exclusively role playing. This is
exclusively interacting with a world. Yeah,
yes, that's already built already. Not only in it, it's an existing our world, but it's also the scenario's built for you. The framework of your situation is built for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd rather live in a world where hard mechanics like assertions are removed or implemented, because I think I just love the fact that there are just a couple scenarios, a couple agendas, and you just go for it.
I think there's a lot more than a couple agendas. Sorry, it sounded like a genders. I'm sorry.
Oh, I did not get
I
that.
didn't
Genders?
Gender.
Wait,
What are you talking about?
wait. Roll that back.
Propaganda. I'd like to
what were
take a
you-
propaganda. at
Roll
the-
it back. Oh, wait. What did you say, Jess? You think they're what?
I think there's more than just a couple genders.
Yeah.
Oh, Maroon.
Good joke.
We're cutting this out. We're cutting it out.
Well, you don't want you want to assert that the podcast believes that there's only two genders?
Gabagool over
Come
on,
here.
Emma.
I'm sorry. Are we
Whoa.
pro? Okay, I'm gonna get back into character.
I'm pro people thinking
excuse me,
you're
Mr.
funny.
President. We have to
I'm pro
rebuke the
Gabagool.
gender binary.
Sorry,
Yeah,
that's a hate
Mr.
crime.
President.
Actually,
Mr. President, I think
that
the
was
issue is that
actually
a lot of
straight up
the
hate
voting
crime.
public think that the gender binary should be. No.
Okay, we have to stop talking about this.
Okay.
Are you saying you're trying to?
This is
Yeah,
where
and we're getting
the
back
edit
into
picks
it.
up now.
No, I'm leaving this in to show the American people how you
That we
guys
don't
have,
just
have
make
moved,
fun of
how
Mikey.
you moved it from
Leave
Mikey
it.
to me, apparently.
You don't have your background on, and it's kind of taking me out. Like when you turn off your camera, it's not the crying anime person, and I was expecting that.
Because we had interviews.
On the assertions that we kind of just missed, something I felt compelled to do was to get everybody to recap and like explicitly state, are you option 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
Yes.
Because I think that was helpful. Because it's great to hear the arguments and get the ideas flowing. But at the end of the day, because it's a point system, I was like, are you support or are you spin?
I think I understand now. My opinions in a world of political doublespeak, I don't think assertions belong in the system. Like, it's hard to like really nail that down. I guess I'd need to hear a good example of what it sounds like, but I mean, I love the idea that you're just kind of worming your way into an argument, and like Buster Ballot found out if we had went with his solution, he still would have lost completely.
Secretary Joseph, I missed your like snivelly voice that you started with.
I forgot what it was. I didn't remember what it was. I tried to remember it, but
I had an idea of a voice too that just kind of fell away. But I loved the like here like.
Is that what I was doing?
It
I
came
have no
back at the
idea.
end. Came back at the end though.
Hello, Spider. Hello, Mr. Spider.
I think
The spider, one bite from Arachnus Desiccus.
I
Cut
think
that.
you forcing us to recap and pick an option was incredible
Good.
for multiple reasons. One of them being that it allowed us the space to not explicitly say what we were backing earlier, which I think really helped Sam be on Maya and Anisha's side more until the, it like allowed us to be like, yeah, we're all together on this. No, we're actually not.
That's how it felt. I remember thinking, oh, Mikey and Jess are kind of like out on an island because y'all. I don't know.
Oh, I felt out on an island.
Really?
So that's funny. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, no,
You're in the-
you
you're
felt
in-
out
you're
on
in-
an
Emma
island.
were in
I
the
thought
same
you were.
camp from the beginning.
We were on the same island.
Yeah,
I
I was
thought there
like,
was
I
only
was
one
like, I was
agenda.
like, it's 3 against 2 here.
Well, I also
I just want
was
to say
like,
only one
I-
of us had no people on their side at the end. So
That's true.
That's such a. I just like
We
the idea of
used you,
conservation.
Sam, and I'm sorry.
it's okay. That's what happens to chief of staffs all the time.
I think it was also because you were making so much sense that it felt necessary to like piggyback on your arguments and then be like, but actually we should do this.
Yeah.
Like all of that. And that was helpful.
Yeah.
Any recap thoughts? We feel ready to give a presidential sign off to this game.
Do we approve this message?
That's a fun game.
We're going to make one political statement here. Please reelect President Zach Gordon for the next term.
I think Shannon Wilson's taking the dub on this one. I think Zach
Yeah.
Gordon is about to be like
I think.
out.
We did it, Zach.
it's definitely going to be a Joe and Kamala situation where you're going to step
Oh,
down.
yeah.
That's a fun game. I think you can play it in whatever tone you would like, but I think this game thrives in a sort of campy situation and a Veeps-like tone.
And I think it's definitely worth considering what we talked about last time with kids on bikes, where Emma was talking about like the context in which you play games is very important. And I remember when Emma and I were talking about this game behind the scenes, what?
The context.
We
Oh, you exist in the context.
Did you just fall out of the coconut tree?
Like, if you're playing this game in a Emma made a good point that this game was made 2005, which was, I feel, before a lot of modern safety tools in RPGs existed, and especially a game like Kids on Bikes, where the safety tools are so like explicit and ironed out, where it literally mentions like, if you're playing this game in like a store or like in a public place, be aware that there are people around you. So if you're like discussing big topics like racism or whatever, like bigotry, like if you're discussing that stuff, people will hear you. But if you're doing it in your own house, like, it's good to have the comfort of all the players in mind, et cetera, et cetera. If you're doing it on a
the
podcast,
comfort of anyone this is
if you're doing
for
a podcast,
public
like,
consumption.
anyone could listen to this. So it's like, we really, really have to make sure we're saying stuff that's like, not that we have to like censor anything necessarily, but
No,
it's
that
just
aligns with what we believe and like.
Look, the woke mob is coming to get us.
No.
Oh. Yeah,
Yes, girl, they're coming, but we're stronger.
Role-playing gives us an opportunity to be scummy politicians, and we don't believe in scummy politics, but it's
I will say-
undeniably fun.
I mean, I believe in it. It is a thing.
I will say
It exists.
Like, it exists. It's
Yeah,
real.
okay.
It exists.
It's real. I believe wholeheartedly. in
Wait,
building factories.
wait, Pam. The Earth is flat. Oh my God.
Oh,
Okay,
Jesus. Oh my
Sam,
God.
you were saying something?
I was gonna say, I will say, do not play this game in public. If you play this game in public, you are a menace to society.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this game is meant to be played in the privacy of a home where you can yell. Like, don't play this game if you have like neighbors too close by either. Honestly, like, I feel like you got to get lost in the sauce on this game.
Yeah.
So yes, the fact it's almost 20 years old. Happy birthday. We don't see some of those safety mechanics. Another thing I would love to be baked into the rule book, just because of like how I like to play, is I love that we gave our characters names and had like a little bit of an intro. Because in the rule book, it says something like, you're not Martha of Suburbia, you're Martha of whatever.
Yeah.
And so like they don't have
that like degree of separation between yourself and the character. It's like you're just taking on the mantle of the role.
And I like that. I think it's fun, and it was neat to like have these just like loose ideas of who these characters were. And I also love this was a quick game.
Yeah.
I feel like we were able to
Love
get
that.
into it and also like had a nice satisfying arc, and it's early in the night. Wow.
Honestly, like an ideal one shot, and even potentially like entry point to role playing. Like if you if like the like heady mechanics and a lot of dice like get you nervous, but you like the idea of like the improv element of it and just like be playing a character, this is the game for you.
An intro to role-playing games for theater kids who
For
did
theater
improv.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah.
They'll
If
be
you are
swimming in
shy, this game you would hate.
It's not for you.
It's not.
That's where the
It's-
assertions, I feel, come in.
This game is for annoying people.
It's it can be pretty overwhelming though. So a word to the warning if you
If you don't
I
like
can't
yelling, don't
imagine
play.
listening to the podcast version because playing is one thing.
But thank you so much for having done that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
you listeners.
and this is not a game that I think I would want to play with people I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
no,
Oh,
like
yeah.
this isn't an icebreaker game.
Oh,
this is a
God,
like
no.
let's
No.
yell at each other.
Uh-uh.
You know,
I can-
like it's fun.
Yeah.
I'm actually really glad I wasn't one of the ones arguing. No, I'm so serious.
No, for real, I'd cry.
You
Well,
were one of the ones.
You were one of the
arguing.
ones arguing.
You won the
were, like,
game.
loudly.
Yeah, you
You
arguing.
won the
won.
game.
I almost
Yeah.
cried.
This was crazy to be part of. For people who do not know Anish in real life, when we play secret role games, Anish does not like that. Well, I don't want to say that for you, but Anish always plays a chaotic version of the game. that is
Daring
just
today,
like,
aren't we?
I can't go for it too much because I don't want to get like my assumption of it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is like I don't want to have to like push too hard for my agenda, so I'm just gonna cause chaos.
Yes, that's 100%
And you
right.
won this game. You were like, all that out the window. I'm fucking winning.
You
The
locked
military will prevail.
It was also very convenient because of the scenario and just the things I picked. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this game is kind of a flip side to the coin. It's the other side of the coin of like secret identity games.
Yeah.
I feel like this is like
known identity.
Yeah, like you're doing the same kind of the similar thing of like debating, arguing, but everyone knows who everyone else is, and
you sort of know their agenda after a couple arguments.
I am curious. Did anyone think that I was going to be anti-voter satisfaction?
I did not.
No.
I did not. You got me. You
I
played
just
me like a
thought
fiddle.
you were on my side, and I didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the rule book, or maybe you had said early on something about like, oh, I think it's actually in the rule book. Part of your role description is like the advantage of the vice president is to try to get as much revenue as possible for
And
the
I'm
party.
not worried about you.
Because the president's the one who takes the heat, and then in the next cycle you'll have that tax built up, and the president will have dirt, so then you can kind of come up and like be
Clean
squeaky
slate.
clean and
Yeah.
What's interesting, and I just realized this, I didn't suspect you were anti-voter satisfaction because you don't. If you're in favor of, I don't know, like building
Development.
factories and development, it doesn't matter if unless you're pro voter satisfaction and anti, like, or pro development. It's not like an internal conflict, right? I don't think we had too many internal conflicts with our agendas.
I didn't think mine would be, and then they ended up being completely at odds with the
Yeah.
results.
But that'd be a difficult, selection. So I'd be interested in playing this game with randomized agendas, because then you would have to like really make it work. We had like thought put into it that made sense with our characters, but it'd be super fun to be like, okay, we're handed this problem, and
I'm pro-military, pro-conservation, anti-voter satisfaction. Let's go. Like,
exactly.
It was a good call making me the Secretary of the Interior because of the relevant issue there. Because
I
the other
didn't
ones wouldn't have
even
been as
think
relevant.
about that. I
Yeah,
just
look at
thought
that.
I was being petty, to be honest.
It's fair.
it's
We're just
it's
punishing
funny.
a Hamilton reference.
Treasury or
And that's always valid.
Anish, you're talking about it being like stressful and like, I don't know, just this is not for the podcast or whatever. Like, I just am like, if we talk about it later, you're like, I don't remember a thing. Like, I just, I blacked it out.
That's why we record it. That's why we record it.
You're gonna listen to it and be like, "Oh, I yelled."
I
yelled.
I'm surprising. I think I'm okay, but
I could see it maybe being stressful because, like, especially if I feel like you're not listening to me, it can get like upsetting.
I think it's fine because it's y'all. If I was with a new group of people, like, I'd be like, time to end it all.
Yeah.
This sucks.
Speaking of ending it,
Good transition.
Yeah,
I was
that's
just about to
good.
say.
That's
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. Now we are going to roll to see what the next game we're playing is.
Woohoo.
Sam, please take it away.
Woo! 6.
Whoa. Okay.
What game is that, Mikey?
So our next game will be Heart, the City Beneath.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us, Sam. A pleasure.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. This was great.
For
Incredible.
listeners at home, Sam is part of one of our home games where we play as mice.
This is so true. This is shout out to mice.
Nice.
Yeah, shout out to Mice Night. Shout out to Mice Night.
And also in a game with Anish and me that just finished after 4 years of running.
Hey, we still have an epilogue session.
We still have an epilogue. Still have an
Yes.
epilogue.
Suffice to say, Sam, we love RPGs on the podcast.
Woo!
And I love them in real life
And on the podcast.
and on the podcast. Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
maybe you can follow us on Instagram now.
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
No problem. I think that seems
Sam, you
only
don't
fair.
use Instagram, right?
I don't. Did y'all
No.
send me? Did you follow me on Instagram? Like, did you send me an invite or something?
I have no idea. You were like, do y'all ever use video clips? I was like,
You see, I hear
It's
y'all
our
talk
bread and
about this
butter.
all the time in person. I am never on Instagram, but
You're
I
fine.
should be supporting y'all.
A great time to
Yeah.
say that any listeners, please
That was
click
hilarious.
the link in our bio. Follow us on all socials.
And with that, we will see you at a different table.
Woo.
Beneath one. In the heart of the table. Bye.
The city. The table beneath.
Hello there, reader, players, and gamers. We really appreciate you tuning in to our executive decision listening session, and we're so excited to play Heart as a group in the coming episodes. However, we had a bit of a scheduling change. Sorry about that. Since the secretary got fired, it's been all over the place. So please bear with us and enjoy our playthrough of Eyes on the Prize. I'm Zach Gordon, and I approve this message.